Welcome to Tiny Game Chronicles episode 44. My name is Marcus, and here with my good friend Michael. Every other week, we discuss games that are quick plays, but epic journeys. It's great to see you today, Michael. We're recording on a weekend again. How are you
Yes,
doing, my
Marcus.
friend?
I am well. We are in a heat wave at the moment here in Europe. Humidity is extremely high. I'll leave it at that. So, the way that I'm sitting here, it's like really, really hot. But I'm really excited because it's not just the two of us today, Marcus, right?
It is not just the two of us. We are joined by another guest this week. Our good friend Matt Sowinski, co-host of the PlayStation Generation, reviewer for Console Creatures, But Why Though, recently CGM. It is great to see you today, Matt. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. I'm so stoked to finally be on the show with you guys. I love everything that you guys are doing. I love the way that you spotlight smaller games and talk about how the impact that they have despite their length. I'm stoked to be here, guys. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
We're excited.
Very
Thank
excited
you so
to
much
have you.
for taking the time, right? Yeah.
Before we get started, I do have a question for you guys. This game that we're playing is all about music, so I am curious. What is the most memorable concert that you've attended? I want to start with our guest, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this question. I love music and I love going to concerts. Like me in a mosh pit, I think is really my true form at the end of the day. But there was one show that I went to see. It was a band called A Dangerous Summer, a pop punk band that I went back when I was in high school. I loved the entire lineup, but and they put on a hell of a show. It was in a small club called Sneaky D's in Toronto. On the second floor, when they came on, you could literally feel the floor shaking with the amount that people were jumping. The crowd was on point. Like everybody was super friendly, super kind, like, arms around each other, singing along. It was one of those like lightning in a bottle moments. But the part that really blew me away was one of their openers. It was a band called The Morning Of, and coming from the States, their drummer did not make it across the border for whatever reasons. They ran into issues. So they came on the stage very apologetic. They're like, we don't know what to do. Our full band isn't here. We obviously can't play the songs to the full effect. The other drummers don't know our songs. So, what we were thinking is, we would just do like an acoustic set, and everybody erupted. They started taking different requests from different songs off a couple of their albums. They were singing along. They put on an incredible show. But just the entire vibe there, how supportive everybody was. They're taking requests. They're like, wait, you guys know that song too? Yeah, we can play that too. It was just such a wholesome and great environment centered around music and the shared unique experience that, talking about making memories around music. Mm-hmm. It was this perfect little microcosm of a concert that a friend of mine came with me and he wasn't really familiar with the bands, but he came out and he was like, man, one of the best concerts I've ever been to. I'm gonna have to listen to all these bands. What an incredible show. It was one of the best and most memorable shows I've ever been to.
Damn,
that's beautiful.
That's awesome. Now, wow. How are you going to follow that up, Michael?
Yeah, we can go into the fact that I had stayed many years and lived many years in South Africa, over 20 years, 25 years about. And memorable concerts are obviously the ones that really excited you and the ones that really disappointed you, because those kind of stay in memory, right? So I'm going to go to the most exciting one, but let me start off with the ones that I was really hoping would be memorable and weren't. Guys, so this kind of shows my age, right? I attended one of the last Simon and Garfunkel concerts.
Okay.
And Simon and Garfunkel, I think the icons, right? We don't need to go much further into, but I found it was the most uninspiring concert ever because they made such little effort.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Engage the audience. Yeah, it's. I mean, yes, that song they had. But I think you need to, as an artist, not just kind of rattle off your playlist, but connect with the audience. The other one that wasn't memorable was Madonna. Also, just someone who went through a set list, obviously. Great stage performance, but no connection, right? And I think the connection with the audience, how you generate that connection is so essential. And now I'm going to go into the highlight. The concert that really blew me was Simply Red, Mick Hucknall. I can't tell you the effect that show had on me, especially after ending the concert and then coming back on stage with a guitar solo with the song Holding Back the Years, which kind of fits with the game that we going to be talking about today, right? So I don't think I've ever had so many goosebumps. I came away flashed. I will never, ever forget the Simply Red concert. Yeah, up there are obviously just two to finish off that are also memorable for me. When I came to Germany, the first concert that I attended was a Van Morrison concert. The man that has an incredible voice on the stage, an incredible presence, and of course the my favorite band in my youth, whom I followed from the days of Yazoo, was Depeche Mode. And I've attended two Depeche Mode concerts here in Europe. Unforgettable. I've been following them since the early 80s, since the beginning of electronic music. Yeah, unfortunately, there are only three members, I think, left. No, at the moment, two members, I think, as far as I know. Amazing concert. So those are my memorable moments, topped off by Mick Hucknall's Simply Red. Yeah.
Very cool.
Marcus, what about you? Let's hear.
So I've got a few, but I'll really zero in on one because I think like it is the experience that I had at this concert was very emblematic of the game that we're going to be talking about today, which is Mixtape, obviously. So as a good Canadian boy that I am, that grew up in the early 80s or mid 80s to like 90s, the Tragically Hip was a very big, prominent Canadian band. And I've seen them. They were definitely my favorite as a teen into university. Seen them probably 20-ish times, arena shows to kind of like smaller venues. But one year in university or in the summer, we got a group of I think it was about 15 of us, and we went on a road trip to go see the Tragically Hip at Pine Knob, which is, so I went to university near Toronto, small city near Toronto, and we all drove to Pine Knob, which is just north of Detroit. So we went into the States, and this is like an outdoor amphitheater. So we were camping nearby. We were tailgating before the concert, which was awesome, with our Canadian flags. And a couple of the people had tickets that were kind of in the seating area, only like a few rows from the front, whereas most of the group were up on the grass, kind of like in the back. And what we ended up doing is we took like the two tickets of the people that had the good seats, and one of the people that from the tickets, they would take both the tickets back. They grab one person, and then we'd each be able to show our tickets to be able to go down to the seat. And we basically got the whole group right to we all smushed right in, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 rows from the stage. And it was just awesome. It was so awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was very, very cool experience. It was the first trip that I went on with my current wife, Lindsay, at the time too. So it was good memories on that trip for sure. Yeah, very good time. So yeah, that's the concert experience. So before we get into talking a little bit more about Mixtape, I did want to just mention that our previous episode, Michael, with our good friend Ron, aka Savoy Prime, on Duck Detective: The Secret Salami, a game that was not really for me, but has some good points to it as well. And you guys both liked it a little bit more than I.
Absolutely. And it has, I was quite surprised. It has quite a following, right? With regards to the amount of comments that we got and the excitement that there was in the community that we actually decided to play this game. Yeah, definitely a a good game. I'm glad I went through that experience. I'm glad it reminded me of grammar school, but I'm also glad to leave that now behind me.
Okay, guys, let's begin our discussion about Mixtape. So Mixtape was released on May 7th of 2026 on everything: PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch 2. It was developed by Beethoven Dinosaur out of Australia. It's their second game. They previously released An Artful Escape. In Mixtape, you follow a group of high school students, Stacy Rockford, Van Slater, Cassandra Marino, during their last day together. Stacy is moving to New York the next day to pursue her dream of becoming a music producer, and they have their whole day planned out, culminating at this big beach party thrown by Camille Cole. The game is broken into 30 chapters, each set to a music track chosen by Stacy, specifically for that particular moment. It's pretty gameplay light overall. With the chapters, they may have you walking around a room, talking to others, examining items. Sometimes there's chapters that involve some mini games like skateboarding or skipping rocks. It was incredibly well received by critics at release, currently sitting at an 87 on OpenCritic. Although we'll probably touch on it a little bit, hopefully not too much. There was not without some controversy, let's say. We start out our discussion by asking ourselves 3 quick questions. What did you play it on? About how long did it take you to beat? And what are some high-level thoughts you have about the game? Matt, you want to get us started?
Yeah. I played it across Steam Deck and PC. It took me, according to the Steam clock, 3.3 hours to wrap it up, and I loved it. I went into it expecting to like it. I am very much the audience that this game was catered to. And I walked out blown away. I think it's just such a beautiful look at youth and at music, and at a time in your life when there's just so much uncertainty and rough waters, and like an era of your life where your friends are the most important things in the world to you, and this kind of like listlessness, and I'm not sure where the future is going to take you. And I think Mixtape really takes the beauty of youth and music and boils it down to a 3-hour experience that just feels magical. It reminded me of a lot of things I hadn't thought about in a long time. It brought me back to a time and place and people that I haven't seen in years. I really loved it.
Awesome. Michael.
Yeah, it's one night, 3 friends, one last night of high school. And I think that says it already. I also played it on PC. I stayed with PC just because I loved the art style that the game had, and I wanted to really enjoy it on a bigger screen. Per se, I think I took a little bit longer than what you did, Matt. I think 4 hours and 20 something minutes. Just because I think I took my time with it as well, as I usually do. Yeah, the alternative title. I mean, I love giving things alternative titles. If it wasn't called Mixtape, I would call it just One More Song, because that's kind of the feeling that I get if I remember. And this is so funny, right? Well, this is why it's so moving. So this year is our 40th year of the class that matriculated in South Africa. So they were trying to get me to go there in August. So 86 I matriculated, and it's amazing to kind of see the people. I've been out of touch, obviously, right, as things are. And then there was this list of the people that have passed, and there were like over 15 people, where I'm pretty shocked, with regards to, wow, they're no longer part of this journey. I won't be seeing them again. And I think that's why kind of going through this game, kind of making memories, was kind of so special to me, because I was reminded of people that I was in very close contact with that are no longer there. Yeah, so very emotional game for me, and I loved it. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, I played this on PlayStation, and I did I did decide to go for the platinum. So I spent a little bit more time with it, and I was picking away at trophies as I was playing it. So my total playing time ended up being about 6 hours. My high level thoughts, I really enjoyed this game too. I think one of the things that really struck me is that the 3 of us here are, I don't know exactly how old you are, Matt, but we're about 10-ish years apart. And it's still like struck a nerve for each of us. We're almost like from 3 different generations here on this call, right? And it is so poignant and so relevant for all of us. And I think that there is a timelessness about the themes and kind of the topics and the music and every aspect. I've heard a lot of people, reviewers, and kind of like the discourse around this game was maybe whether or not this kind of like it reflected that 90s kind of growing up, but it's more timeless than that. And I think that that's a real strength of the game, and that what it's touching on. Yes, there are definitely some 90s references scattered, present, very obviously in the game, but it's not just that. And I think that is really, I don't know, special about it. It doesn't require you to have experienced everything in that game for it to be meaningful to you as a player, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can have your own playlist, right? And still connect with the playlist that was presented.
I like that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, because a lot of those songs, those songs were not my audio sphere. There weren't songs that I've listened to. Many of them I hadn't heard for the first time, or I'd heard maybe in passing. But I could plug my own songs, you know, like kind of do mental switches. I was like, okay, if I was the one in this position, this would the song would fit. I do think there's merit to the conversation around, you know, representation and having more stories coming from more viewpoints and across different, you know, different people's upbringings and different cultures. But I do think that Mixtape does a really good job in telling this story. And I hope that this shows people that you can make games about these types of stories in, you know, in your own kind of, you know, within your own color and within your own viewpoint and within your own history. I would love to play more of these from different places, from different perspectives, from different casts, right? I do think there's, you know, there's merit to that conversation, and I do think Mixtape got an unfair shake as a whole, because I think a lot of the controversy kind of went way above, like beyond it, even past representation, with a bunch of idiots online throwing shade for no reason. But I do hope Mixtape becomes almost like a blueprint so that other people can tell their story in this kind of format, because I'd love to play those games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to give listeners a brief reminder about how we talk about games on Tiny Game Chronicles. We like to identify 3 things that we think stood out. Could be good or bad. Usually it's good, but and do a deeper dive discussion on each of those 3 things. And most of the time, we'll do so here. No spoilers for the narrative of the game. So if you have not yet had a chance to play Mixtape, you are safe to listen. Okay, guys, let's get into our deep dive discussion about Mixtape. And the first standout, this was I really wanted to talk about, is the characters of Mixtape. I feel like, again, I didn't have a Stacey Rockford in my life, but I really loved the character of Stacey Rockford, even though she was kind of a little pretentious, kind of a little bit obnoxious, kind of a little standoffish at times. I love the characters of this game, and I really love the portrayal of the relationships of these characters.
Yes. Yes.
Michael, do you want to
I have to totally...
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, no, go ahead. Yeah, I think that there's a real beauty in it. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I can't speak for everyone, but I think this is a time, especially in my life, where it was like, friends matter more than anything else. I don't care about my parents. I don't care about my family. My friends are the most important things in the world, and we will be together forever. And it was this kind of pervasive feeling of connectivity that I feel like, obviously, a lot of the people that I was close with at that time, again, just by the virtue of time and space, we're not really in contact as much anymore. But in that moment, you know, we were inseparable. And I feel like Mixtape does a really good job showcasing that, because, yeah, like you mentioned, I think I was the Stacey to an extent, where I was like, you need to listen to this song, man. Trust me, people are like, just leave me alone, man. just give me, I don't want to listen to your random screamo band that nobody knows. I'm like, no, but you have to listen to this breakdown though. Like, I was that kid. So I identified a lot with Stacey, but you know, and I could kind of mentally fill in people in my life that kind of fit the roles of the other characters. And I think it's just really beautifully told, where, yeah, I would have done anything for my friends in that point in time, which is a recurring theme across Mixtape. And I think it's just really wonderfully displayed and kind of connected in that way.
I think you've hit it on the head, Matt. I did an exercise because I love doing this type of research, and I haven't done this type of research in a while. I love checking what names actually mean, and I thought, okay, well, these names aren't there just by accident, so. I think Beethoven Dinosaur, had some thoughts with regards to naming these characters, and so I went down a rabbit hole, and maybe just quickly share what I discovered through the names and what they say about the characters. Maybe also as a little bit of a teaser if you haven't played Mixtape yet and you want to start playing it. So Stacey is a as one of the top names during the 70s and 80s, that was picked, kind of in a very suburban American way, kind of that portrays some sort of warmth. And I already see in the name Stay, the opposite of what she wants to do, right? Which is to leave, which is to go, per se. And Rockford, I mean, it's the combination of rock and ford. Rock meaning something that is stable, perhaps also immovable. And ford means you need to cross something, right? Exactly. Yeah. So I think it demonstrates the internal struggle that she has, wanting to leave. And right early, we kind of know that she wants to go to New York and things like that. So without spoiling, by all means, play the game. And then the best friend, Van Slater, right? So Van is Dutch. We pronounce it a little bit differently. It's fun, meaning from, right? So also from a specific place. And Slater is an old English occupational name for he who lays the roof. And so we see that Slater had this function of providing structure, providing protection in the relationship. He was always at the midpoint when a crisis happens, and obviously there is drama in this game, right? He is kind of the anchor, right? He's kind of the shelter in this relationship. So again, wonderful choice of names that were used. And last, Cassandra, right? Cassandra Moreno. And Cassandra is a Greek goddess of mythology who's kind of cursed to always tell the truth, but never to be believed, if that makes sense. And here again, right, Moreno comes from the name Moor, so Moro. The Moors obviously have a big historical function because they conquered most of Europe, per se. But they were always kind of seen as the dark one or the shadow or the stained one, right? And Moreno, the Reno in the name, it's Italian. It's a patronymic surname, and it says she or he who belongs to. So it belongs to, and the father is a policeman, right? You can see that in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything here. And for the policeman, it's quite important to live out his kind of authority, his kind of structure, right? And Cassandra is trying to break away from that, right? Trying to escape that, per se. So also this kind of internal struggle that is happening. So a wonderful way how these names came together and give us a little bit of a view of a preempting certain things that might or might not happen in this game. So yeah, Marcus, how was it for you?
Yeah, that's interesting, Michael. I think of Van Slater as the name Van Slater. It could not be more like of those movies, that Ferris Bueller, Dazed and Confused. I think there is a character named Slater in that, and so like it also fits from that perspective in this vibe that they're just 100%. Trying to do.
Like Saved by the Bell, like any of those shows from that era. Like Van Slater is so good. Yeah, it's so good.
So good. I was thinking Matt had mentioned that he identified as the Stacy. I think I'm probably more the Cassandra. I don't know. I was a pretty good kid. Like I wasn't getting into that much trouble, but I definitely kind of towards my later high school was maybe pushing a little bit more, pushing back. And again, my parents were not like the overprotective dad or parents that Cassandra had, but I definitely would probably identify mostly with Cassandra. Probably as I kind of actually got out of the house, that was more the route that I went as well. One thing that I definitely wanted to touch on as well as we're talking about characters is, we've talked about our major three, but there are some really good side characters in this. Jenny fucking Goodspeed, right?
Jenny fucking Goodspeed.
I love the kind 100%. Of the rivalry between for Cassandra, between Jenny and Stacy. Like I really love that little kind of like side story kind of thing that's going on here, because it felt real. I could totally see like a Stacy being very jealous that Cassandra has any friends outside of their small little group.
And especially because I feel like the way every time that they bring up other characters, and even like, to a character as minor as like Van's mom, who shows up for like a couple lines, they all feel like just it all feels very lived in. It's like you would talk in high school where you just name drop people
100%.
without really filling things in, and it's only through context and once you dive more into the memories and you see more of their world at large that you start to really understand how these people fit into the bigger picture. But I love the way that they just name drop people and you're like, what do you mean? But they, even just in those small moments, they're instantly memorable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the disdain that Stacy says Jenny's name with, and the way that she references her, and even again, Van's mom was probably one of my favorite characters, and she has like one line. You know what I mean? Like it's just little things that they do that instantly make them not just relatable but also memorable. It's so good.
And I think some of the big criticism that the game had, if you just look at the reviews, was that many people or reviewers mentioned that they could not identify with Stacy per se. They found her obnoxious, self-absorbed, and all those things might be true. But I don't think that this game is asking you to sympathize with her. I think it's just asking you to understand and recognize her, right, for who she is and the role that she plays. And I think that the game did that extremely well. I actually really liked Stacy just because she was different, and she thought differently, and yeah, she does not see the complete picture. She does not know the whole truth. But I think she stood for something, and I applaud her for that.
I really
for
respect
having those convictions.
I
right?
really
Sorry.
respect kind of like at that age, having the conviction and the passion to go and chase your dream the way that she intends to do. Like I didn't know very many. I certainly didn't have that passion at that age to be able to like go with my dream, right? And
Totally.
like no questions asked. I have to do it. And so like you got to respect that, whether or not she might come off as a little abrasive at times or kind of a little self-serving at times. I think like you have to respect that passion that she demonstrates.
See, and I also think that there's another layer to it that, like, I don't think I've seen touched on as much, and maybe again, it's painting with my own brush here a little bit. And there's reasons why she always has headphones on. There's reasons why she uses music as not
100%.
just there's reasons why as to why she not just uses music as a way to color her memories. It's also it's a crutch in a way. You know what I mean? I do think that there's tinges of ADHD and autism there, which
100%.
again isn't always coded in a way that's immediately recognizable and immediately likable, right? As someone who struggles with my own stuff and who have many friends that do, these attributes don't always come across as quote unquote mainstream likable, right? It's not necessarily coming from a place of friction or any sort of bad negativity or bad feelings. But like I was that kid. I was the one that was like, I'm going to my dream university, I'm going to do everything, like I'm going to do this and this and this. And it wasn't, I think it was that kind of the hopefulness of youth not being beaten down by years of the real world yet, that you feel like you can do anything, that you hope that you can. And I feel like Stacy is really great because she's not your stereotypical Ferris Bueller. She's not your stereotypical character because she's clearly dealing with stuff that she doesn't know how to talk about, and she doesn't know she doesn't know how to deal with. So she's found her crutch in music, and that's become the hyper focus, and she uses that as a way to deal with the world outside. And when she doesn't have that, and when she doesn't have that structure and that the form of a playlist, she starts to lose it because she doesn't know how to deal with the chaos outside of what she understands. So I feel like it's by design, like you said, Michael, she's not meant to be the most likable and the most mainstream character because she's clearly dealing with stuff.
Correct.
And I think you kind of have to accept that about her,
Correct. Yeah, and also I think you're onto something, Matt. The fact that we don't need to classify this as there is an illness, because I think what she portrayed is just a different sort of intelligence, which we need to embrace and encompass. I just to add to what you say, to say, music was a tool for her as a coping mechanism. I also feel that, and I love the fact that she breaks the fourth wall, right? Music was used to give words and meaning to something that she could not say herself, right? So music very much was that channel of communication, to give you an idea or a sense of, where I'm at, right? So yeah.
It was also this thing. I imagine the fourth wall breaking in a way. It's like, and again, this is my own headcanon, but this is her talking and reliving those memories, which is why everything is kind of painted with this very bright brush. You know what I mean? Like this feels like a Stacey 20 years later telling stories to her kids and telling stories to people that she knows or whatever, right? That's the way that it feels like to me, where it's like it's a look back for Stacey as much as it is a new experience for us.
And I think a sign of that, because I mean, what we experience is her retelling, right? If that makes sense. I mean, I really hope that they do a mixtape 2, right? Because I'm really keen on seeing if we can take the story further. But memories per se are imperfect, and so whether a CD is 500 megabytes or 650 megabytes or 700 megabytes, someone like Stacey perhaps has no, right, it's not relevant for her because it's just a tool for her to use. And so she might remember things imperfectly. And I just want to quickly mention that this is not that this game was, I don't know, made by AI and AI got it wrong. It could be just the point of, hey guys, we don't remember how things were if we reflect back exactly. We have imperfect memories of things, right? So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I think you've led us in perfectly, Michael, to standout item number 2. So we wanted to talk about how this game uses and links music, memories, linking music to a time and place. This game is, obviously it's littered with this. Like every chapter is set to a particular music track. Stacey has picked it out to be very appropriate for the situation that they're experiencing at that moment. And it really, we're talking. We started this episode by talking about our music memories of going to concerts and stuff like that. And music is such a powerful part of memory. It really kind of sets a stage for so many important moments in our lives.
Yes, it does. Let me quickly start the conversation here, because I was the one who mixed tapes at school. I'm not sure whether any of you had that experience, but we had cassettes way back then, and we used to mix songs that came on the radio. So I had the experience when the DJ would announce a song, and you would hope and pray, right, that the DJ
wasn't
would
talking
not
over
talk
the beginning
into
over
the...
it. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So one of the biggest nightmares, right, that you had. And so you used to buy blank tapes. You used to put together a song composition specifically for parties. So you had, I don't know, your romantic cassette, you had your rock cassette, your dance cassette, and I was always looking at various stations depending on the mood, or of cool songs that I was trying to put together. And it was a nightmare, right, with regards to finding the right radio station with the right sort of DJ who would not talk over the beginning of songs, and things like that. So
I've done this, Michael. I've done that, but I didn't do it a lot because it was so, like, it's such a crapshoot, tedious. You don't know what's coming on. So I would do mixtapes, but with actual tapes that we already had. But realistically, and I was kind of right in that generation where burning CDs, mixed CDs, became a thing.
Yes.
And so I definitely did that. I put together lots of different, but it was mostly like party kind of, if things that we would have when we have a house party, have everybody over in university,
exactly.
and have something in the background that you wouldn't have to change up all the time, right?
See, I was the kid that was like, I was the one burning CDs. That was my generation, and downloading such individual tracks off of something like LimeWire or a Kazaa,
Yeah.
and then I was that kid. I was the one that was like, okay, one of my best friends in the world, he likes this kind of music, and here are the songs that I also like that we kind of have crossover. So here's my CD for when he's in the car. Okay, here's my CD for this person. Here's my CD for this occasion. Here's my CD full of hype or rap or rock or whatever. So building, like, you had such a finite amount of space that you had to like very, very intuitively pick each song and place them in an order that you would remember and that you would kind of identify with, and that would flow. I was that kid spending hours burning CDs just trying to find the right flow and being like, oh crap, I'm now a megabyte over, I can't fit this song. Now does this change how this goes, because this was supposed to be the final track? Which one do I get rid of? And playing with these spaces. And I feel like so many of songs from that era for me are linked to people, to one specific moment, to a party, to a drive, that they're kind of too ingrained with the person and the memory to ever truly separate them. So when I go back to listen to these songs, it's like taking a literal walk through memory lane, where I'm like, okay, yeah, we did accidentally, set that axe can on fire trying to make a flamethrower in the parking garage, and then when we kicked it to try and get it away from us, it blew up. Like, there are these like I have songs tied to those moments, because again, we were just trying to do what we could in that time. So I love that Mixtape uses music as a storytelling device, not just to link your own, again, memories to the moments in the game. Okay, this song was the one that I was skateboarding to. This song is the one that I was skipping rocks to. It does a really great job of doing that while also reminding you of your own situations with music and songs and people.
I think what this game does well is the quality of the playlist. It doesn't span just 10 years. No, I think it spans like, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, right up to the beginning of the 2000s. And if I look at Joy Division, right? So who still remembers Joy Division? Okay, I do, because I'm in that age, right? Porter said, yeah, I know. It's You and the Banshees, very early 80s bands per se. So the choices were not obvious, but they hit. And so I'm just transported back to, the songs that were meaningful to me during my high school. And I remember really falling in love with someone called Belinda. Gosh, I can't remember how old I was. I think 13, 14, kind of like the first time I was starstruck. And what was the most cheesy song that we have in the world that was playing, right? So Careless Whisper from George Michael, right? So whenever I hear that song, I think of Belinda per se, right? Billy Ocean, African Queen. I remember like dancing to that with another lady, my first girlfriend. It was not Belinda, unfortunately.
Damn, Belinda.
And so you kind of go down that memory road, right? With songs that were incredibly meaningful to you. And yeah, so even though I'm listening to different music, it's very easy just to reflect back on what were those incremental songs, right? That gave your life meaning, and are linked to highlights of your life and lowlights, right? So yeah. How was your playlist, Marcus? Are there any specific songs that come to mind that I don't know, that reflect your life during high school?
Well, so like for me, it's funny. Like I was a very, nerdy kid. I mean, I'm sure this is coming as a huge shock to you, but like I wasn't doing like that much. So university was my time to shine. Like that's so
Okay,
a lot of
gotcha.
these sorts of memories kind of flood back to that. And absolutely, there's certain songs that come on the radio that still, it just immediately takes me back, right? Immediately takes me back. One that really comes to mind, especially that first year of university, you're still kind of like all the people, you're living in residence, you're forming some really lifelong friends. And one of our friends was a big fan of Come On Eileen, Dexy's Midnight Runners, and he would do this ridiculous dance every time it would come on, and we would get like if we were at the bar, we try to get them to play it so that he would do this just absurd dance where he's like his hands are over his head and he's bumping back and forth, like doing the crotch grab kind of thing. And we always thought it was just so funny. So every time that song I hear it, it's just like I just get transported to watching our friend Mike doing this ridiculous, insane dance. And so like stuff like that is just, it's so like seminal. Like it is so important and foundational within your life experience, right? And this game
Mm-hmm.
does exactly that for these characters and allows the player to put themselves in those shoes. It's not necessarily the songs that are in the game, but it makes you think as a player about which songs are on your mixtape, right? Which songs
100%.
are would make up your after playing the game, I went out for a run and loaded up my playlist. I usually listen to podcasts when I'm running. I loaded up my playlist with a bunch of songs from my youth, from high school and
Wow.
university. And it was just awesome. I had like chills while I'm running, just going back through the memories of these, The Offspring and I don't know, lots of bands that I just loved as a kid.
Hell
Weezer. So like stuff like that. And it was just a really cool experience to be able to kind of relive it after and almost being prompted to do it because I played the game.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Matt, and I think the art style does a lot of heavy lifting in that as well, because I really do think that this is, well, we'll talk about gameplay, but I really do think Mixtape really distills youth in that in a way that works across the bar. It's the music, but it's also the art style. It's also the way that the things that you do in the game, that when you reflect back on your own youth, everybody talks about rose-colored glasses and, like Michael was mentioning, imperfect memories. It almost feels like that era of your life was that kind of magic. It was that kind of, oil painted, like this really cel shaded art style where you think back and you're like, oh man, like this is what I imagine if I could put my youth on the TV in front of me. Like I feel like this is what it would look like. I remember a feeling of, riding longboards down hills, and like I remember like this is probably what it looked like. This is the way that it played in my mind, this almost like dreamlike state of looking back into your own past and your own history. And I feel like it would look like that in my head. It does a really great job of communicating, not just through music, but in the things that you do and the way that you do them. Like even like one of my favorite sections of the game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a section in a field is all I'll say. You see it in one of the trailers. And again, like I remember, I'm sure it was very different in the moment, but when I think about moments like that now, that's how it feels like to me. And like this kind of dreamy glow to it in a bygone era of time that I'm never going to be able to go back to. But if I could take my brain out and plop it in front of me, this is what would come out of the projector. You know what I mean? And I think it just blends all of these disparate things together to create a really specific feeling of youth and a celebration of it.
Yeah. Well, you touched on gameplay, Matt. I want to move on to standout item number 3. We haven't really talked about what it's like to play Mixtape yet. And, again, controversial. I don't think so. I think the gameplay is so inoffensive. It's been done, this type of stuff has been done, countless times in other video games, but for some reason it hit a nerve with certain people on the internet. This is a pretty gameplay light experience, right? So, maybe we call it a walking sim, and certainly in some sections we could call it a walking sim. There are lots of mini games that you get to play. I enjoyed the gameplay, and I thought it was very appropriate for the type of game and the type of story that these devs wanted to.
I think the aspect that one needs to consider is you are in the role of a passenger in these memories. So it is not something where you have 100% agency.
I like that. I like that
to come
that
to a dead end.
Yeah, that's really good.
So, and I think if you interpret how this game was put together, the way that you are a witness to what is happening to our 3 main characters, with a set of obviously side characters per se, I think it's totally okay that you have minimal input to kind of relive this memory. And I thought that they've hit a point because they bringing, 28 different gameplay ideas into the story, each being very unique. Some might consider them a waste of time, but a beautiful waste of time, if that actually makes sense, right? Skipping stones. So
Skipping stones was
too
great.
long on that mini game. I spent way too long on that mini game. I was trying to do everything. I was trying to hit everything.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like that's what I mean. Like even in our own youth, not everything that we did had meaning, right? It was just I'm standing in front of the water. There's rocks on the ground. I'm going to start throwing them and see what I can hit.
Yeah, exactly. And I spent hours doing that. And was the time used productively? No, but it was fun, right? And it was memorable because I think it just allowed us to be in a state. So this game doesn't have any fail states. It doesn't give you game over. And I think this was, maybe what a little bit of the hate that came upon. Is this really a video game or not? Blah 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 blah. Did you play with a controller? Did you play with a mouse? Did you play with a keyboard? Well, guess what? It's a video game, right? So, end of discussion. Yeah. Matt, let's hear from you.
I mean, yeah, it's an amusement park. You go there and you're going to be put on certain rides, and you will go through that ride, and when you're done, you'll walk to the next one, and then you'll experience something new, and you'll do that over and over and over again. The game is, again, 3 to 4 hours. It's not going to keep you locked into skipping stones for 10 hours because that's what you need to do. There's short vignettes that basically just bring you into an experience. And again, I remember doing all of these things. I remember longboarding down bigger hills than we should have been on. I remember, running away from security guards and shopping carts. I remember skipping stones. I remember running through field, like all of these things. There's fingerprints in my own memories to all of these things. So revisiting them, and especially one of my favorite segments in the game, and I won't spoil it here, but the first time that you really hop off of the playlist in the way that Stacy was expecting, like, just is one of my favorite segments of the game because it just goes so over the top, because everything in it when you're at that age, everything feels like the end of the world because it is in that moment. So things are all over the place, things are happening, and just the dreamlike wonder when things finally start to go right. It's just really well told because it's not asking you for a high score. It's not asking you to really do something that's incredibly difficult. It's not going to have, you're not going to have a segment where you need to hit 7 skips or otherwise you fail. It's just sitting there and hanging out with some friends, doing some shit just to see what happens. And like there's one specific mini game that is one of the most atrocious things ever put on screen. Because it is truly awful. I remember sitting there doing it's early in the game, but I remember sitting there doing it and I was like, there's no way they're making me do this. But again, that era of life, everything felt this gross and this weird. It fits, it works. I'd never want to do it again, but it fits perfectly in the context of what they're giving you. So I just feel like the gameplay so perfectly works with what it was, because it's not the point. It's not the point. It's the feeling. It's the memories. It's the music. It's the characters. It's all these things blending together. I'm not out here trying to play Dark Souls and Mixtape. It's a 3-hour movie. You know what I mean? It's an experience. It's a theme park where you're going to go in and you're going to have a great time and you're going to leave and you'll carry those experiences forward with you. I don't need to come back here to try and get a high score.
And not for nothing, like, this is actually a nice evolution of the gameplay that Beethoven and Dinosaur did from Artful Escape. I don't know, Matt, have you played Artful Escape?
I haven't. No, Court has been on my ass to play it for years,
and I don't
just
think
haven't
you
gone
have
around to it, but I've heard great things.
No, yeah. So like,
it's also Matt still to play
it's,
this. Yeah.
It's a 2D game, but like a large portion of the gameplay is like going through these platforms. I really liked Artful Escape, but it's very gameplay light, and a lot of the gameplay that they've introduced in the game is completely unnecessary. Like, there's a button that you hit to play the guitar. You don't have to. You can. But that you just do it because sometimes it might feel good to do it, but there's no real like point of doing it other than that. There's more gameplay here in Mixtape than there was in Artful Escape, and I think they did actually. It was a nice evolution. Like, you could see the DNA that, yes, I get that these are games that are made by the same studio, but there's more here. And I don't think the criticism that this is so gameplay light that it doesn't even deserve to be, how could it get scores the way that it did? Like, that's absurd, because there are lots of other games that do similar things that people don't shit on, but it's just like, there is something here that's fun and engaging at times. Like, there's something here. I actually had fun
100%.
with a lot of these mini games. Skateboarding down the hill, which we see, and ollieing over cars that are coming at you, and who cares if it's kind of guiding you. Like, you're still doing stuff, you're still, as a player, interacting with it, and it's fun. for the most part. I don't know. That's obviously a matter of taste, but like I had fun.
It's also one of those things where I feel like Mixtape has just kind of fallen in this hole of there's genuinely meaningful criticism when you're talking about things like representation and painting stories for different viewpoints, and I think there's merit in having those conversations. But then you have idiots talking about like, well, the main character is a woman, how could I possibly play this? They're going to find any reason to hate. And I feel like all of that just needs to be washed out. And I think there's great conversations to be had about Mixtape and its place in the overall culture. And I think there's great conversations to have there. But then there's also people who are like, what do you mean Stacy's a girl? Like, just grow up, man. If you're still complaining about this shit in 2026, I don't know what to tell you anymore. Maybe this isn't for you anymore.
They're almost kind
like,
of,
come on.
Yeah, like, who cares? Like, there's lots of games that do this sort of thing. And I don't know. It just seemed completely, the vast majority of the criticism, I would say, at least that I was able to glean, just seemed so over the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there are trophies if you want to chase them. So if you can talk about fail states, it could be, you missed a jump, right? So you need to go back and redo it in order for the trophy to pop. So yes,
I did
there
all
are.
those. There's a few that took me a decent amount of tries, right? Like it wasn't like it was so simple to do either. And I just want to say, I also rode in a shopping cart too. We've done that as well. Yeah, I don't know. We weren't going down the freeway, but we definitely have ridden in a shopping cart on the way home from a party.
I went down the freeway. That's one does.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's it, I guess, for our deep dive discussion. That's it for our standouts, but we did get a record number of community standouts, Michael. I'm going to go through them because everybody's brought some really good points, some of which we've already mentioned, but I definitely wanted to highlight those who took the time to write in. Okay, so
let's do it.
First, John32, my good friend, co-host of Hype Factor, wrote in. He said, while I never skateboarded or actively ran away from cops, the game hit hard. It captured a moment, a vibe of growing up in a specific era that was so different than what came before and after. I loved it. I want to show it to everyone I know.
Beautiful.
Black Wyver wrote in. This game is all about the feels, not blowing your mind. Sit back, relax, immerse into the story and enjoy the music. Hedgefield wrote in. I was stunned by the way it looks, and especially the forest, which is so lush and natural looking. And also the cityscapes while skating. Like they built an entire realistic town just to spend 3 minutes speeding through. It's incredible. A real conviction on the part of the dev team to present the world as authentically as possible for the sake of the experience.
Well said.
Friend of the show, Fulia, wrote in, Mixtape was probably one of my favorite narrative-rich games I've played to date. A standout for me would have to be some of the mini games, one of which I spent a good 20-ish minutes on because it was a nice moment to take a break and chill. Skipping stones. It's got to be skipping stones, right?
It's got to be skipping stones.
Let us know, Fulia, in the Discord. I've not really done that particular activity in real life much growing up, but I imagine I would have the same satisfying feeling after a few successful tries at it. Definitely skipping stones, yeah.
Skipping stones.
Of course, always the contrarian, Kevin Ainsworth wrote in, I really wanted to like Mixtape more than I did. But while I love the soundtrack and even some of the moments like skipping rocks, the game just failed to connect with me. I was born in 1993, so maybe that is why. But this was nothing like my teenage years. I also found the characters and the way they spoke to be really off-putting. I never heard anyone speak that way growing up. Kevin's such a hater.
See, I was born in 92, so I'm in Kevin's generation.
Yeah.
Maybe Kevin just didn't go outside much. Who knows?
That's probably it.
Coming for you.
Did he go to school?
Topher, aka Play Nice Kids, they wrote, I love so much about the game. The little claps at the beginning during the Devo song, the sadness when Joy Division started playing, knowing it was all coming to an end. The entire soundtrack is so on point, as is the voice acting. I love all three of these kids, even if they can be obnoxious. They experience things so fully, so immensely, in a way we only do when we're younger. Absolutely adore everything about Mixtape, as it has stayed with me ever since playing it.
Beautiful.
And finally, Jesse at broxmr.ca on Blue Sky said, I played it with my kid and it was definitely a different experience than if I had played it solo. They had so many questions about growing up in the 90s. What was accurate? Did the songs make sense? They wish they had video stores. And we go for lots of Slurpees now to make a Slater, in quotes.
So
I love that one.
So
Great
good.
stuff.
So thanks everybody for writing in. That was awesome. We love being able to read and share people's thoughts on the games that we play. If you, for future episodes, want to have your standouts read on the show, play the game, hop into our Discord, or follow us on Blue Sky. And every episode, Michael will make a call out, and we will be happy to read your standouts on the show. Okay, guys. Go ahead, Michael.
Before we continue, just a quick question. Did any one of you visit like record shops? Just something that I want to quickly highlight. So
yeah, I still do. I still go to record shops. It's like legit. There's one not far away that I'll go every usually every couple months and just peruse. I still buy vinyls.
Interesting. Marcus, what about you?
Not physical shops. Certainly as a kid, we would go to HMV. Okay. That was a big store here, and pick up. For me, it was really CDs. CDs had kind of come in the early 90s, right? So it wasn't so much cassettes at that point. So CDs. I had a pretty decent CD collection that got mostly stolen when we went on a road trip one year to Vancouver. Somebody broke into the back of the car, stole all my CDs. So that was kind of at the time when MP3s and stuff were starting to come, so the early 2000s. So never really, I don't know that have anything to play my CDs on these days anyways, but yeah, we lost my whole big collection of CDs. So, and I collect video game vinyl, but I order that stuff online. So I'm not shopping.
I still think I have like I think everybody has those like plastic binders where you'd unzip and there's just like rows on rows of CDs. I still think I have mine somewhere around here, but yeah.
That's what was taken, yeah.
I just remember that, at least my thought, my 10 cents to it is that experiencing and finding out about music, visiting CD shops, right? We had CD wares in South Africa, so kind of similar experience. You used to spend like a good part of your Saturday there listening to different artists, different songs, different music. I'm not sure whether it's maybe with our age, we've lost that a little bit. No? So the way that we discover music today is an algorithm, I don't know, shoots you a recommendation, or you follow artists and music that you know. But that kind of sense of discovery, I don't think that we have that. We don't get that in digital format like we had back then. So yeah, maybe it's a call to go back to the CD stores or record shops. If you still, want to. I know that Black Byron would appreciate this comment because I think this is something that he does. Yeah.
I've been playing Wax Heads lately, which is exactly that, where you're running a record shop and well, not running, but you work at a record shop. And again, just a lot of memories where I was the kid that was like, Mom, this new CD came out today. You have to take me to HMV. We have to go buy it now. And then I'd leave with 3 CDs. So I'd be like, oh, that one looks cool. Oh, like this one looks so good. Oh, the employee saw me picking this one up and recommended this. Again, that very tactile experience of buying music. I agree with you, Michael. It's just not a thing anymore.
Absolutely. Sorry, Marcus.
That's okay. No. Yeah. So the last thing that we need to do in terms of Mixtape, we ask ourselves at the end of each of these episodes, do we recommend the game? And if so, to whom? You want to get us started, Matt?
Yeah, I genuinely think that Mixtape can be a game for anyone. I think it's 3 hours long. I don't think it's very expensive. I think it's a game that you can hop in and you'll very quickly know if it's for you or not. Because I do think that this could be a game that my dad can enjoy. I think, hearing about Jesse's comment over on Blue Sky playing with their kid and it kind of unlocking this conversation, I think is beautiful. Because again, it demonstrates that this can be a game for everyone and you can kind of insert your own memories, your own songs, your own places within the structure of what Mixtapes gives you. It will not be for everyone, and I think that's fine. But I think this is a game that everyone could enjoy. It's just about giving it a shot, and if it vibes with you, great. But I do really, really recommend it. It's still one of my favorite games this year.
100%. The only thing that I would add there to Matt is, but you said it in different words, is if you don't usually play video games, this is a game that you could start off with because it doesn't require much. So if there's any fear of you picking up a controller, I'm kind of speaking to my wife, then this is the one that you can do it because I think the game is pretty clear.
Yeah. And I don't think that
Marcus.
you had to grow up in the 90s to enjoy this game.
Yeah.
Like this is a
Exactly.
pretty strong recommendation for me. I think like a lot of the experiences, a lot of the stuff that is present in this game is pretty universal. You know, it a lot of the themes at least are very universal. So it's like I think that I would echo what you guys have said. This is a game that a lot of people, even people who don't typically play games, could really get a lot out of and enjoy. I was showing my wife Lindsay, who doesn't play games, a few of the chapters, from a few of my favorite chapters before we hopped on the discussion here today, and yeah, she really got a kick out of what I was showing her. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a very strong recommendation for me. You know, again, if you're not going for the platinum, 3 hours, you know, it's basically a movie anyways. So like, yeah, give it a go. It's a good,
Absolutely.
it's a really good game. Okay, guys, that's it for episode number 44. A few housekeeping items before we wrap things up here. Of course, we would really appreciate it if you shared, liked, subscribed, and left us a 5-star review wherever you happen to be listening. Aside from that, you can follow the show on Blue Sky at Tiny Game Chronicles. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Marcus O'Neill 79. You can also find me on the 2 other podcasts that I do. Hype Factor, a fantasy critic podcast that I do with my good friend John 32. It's a monthly show. We talk all things fantasy critic. And then the other monthly show that we do, although it works out to be probably about every 2 weeks or so these days, Brothers from Another Mothership. Our good friend Ron, aka Savoy Prime, was on our last episode. He does that show with me along with my good friends Matt and Quag. Let's go to you, Matt. Matt, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can catch me over on Blue Sky at Matt Silversoul, and you can find PlayStation Generation at the Console Creatures YouTube. Each and every week, Sundays, we go live at 9 p.m. We talk all things PlayStation and industry at large. And then you can find more of my writing at But Why Though and CGM.
Awesome. Michael.
And we'll put all of that in the show notes.
We will. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
So you can find me on Blue Sky as well under Drellesh, DRELLESH, as well as in our tiny community on Discord. The link will be in the show, as well as on YouTube for about, I'm not sure, Marcus, about half a year, 8 months, run about there.
Yeah, we've been
putting out
something like that. Yeah, we've been doing our largely unedited episodes. So if you want to see our handsome faces on YouTube, you can check out the episodes over there. We also putting together some shorts, usually at least one short per episode. So follow us over on YouTube if that sounds interesting, I guess. We're also doing some writing. We're putting out monthly articles on soManyGames.co.uk. Michael just recently put together an article for a Highland song. So if you want to see kind of our thoughts, Michael's thoughts in written form for a game that we've covered and talked about here on the show, go check out soManyGames.co.uk. Okay, last thing we got to do, guys, is introduce our next game.
Dun, dun.
So this one was developed and published by a couple of devs, Grey Alien Games and Night Signal Entertainment. It is a card-slashing horror game about unearthing the contents of a cryptic 1995 CD-ROM that should never have existed. And the name of this game, Michael, is
Forbidden Solitaire.
Forbidden Solitaire. It is, yes. I peek behind the curtain. Both Michael and I have already played this game, and I think we're going to have some positive things to say. This is a game that is doing some interesting things, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I loved the pacing of this game per se. It's not without its weaknesses, which we by all means can discuss. But I think we should just warn everyone who's keen to play this game, and I can seriously highly recommend it, that this is more a little bit on the XL side when it comes to being a tiny game. But both Marcus and I were expecting a playtime of around about 5 hours, and I think we both needed just over 8 hours to finish it. So just a warning that if you're planning to play with us, you would need a little bit more time. But it's time well invested.
And Matt just found out about Forbidden Solitaire here today.
Yep. So now I'm going to have to check it out.
Perfect. And then you can write in your
cool.
standouts for next episode. There you go.
There you
I
go.
love it. Okay, Matt, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. I think we had a pretty awesome discussion here today. So thanks again for coming and joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome hanging out with you.
Yeah.
I loved your energy, Matt. Yeah, and we'll do this again, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Family.
Okay, I just guess we can wrap things up by saying thank you for listening, and we will be back in 2 weeks with Forbidden Solitaire.
Forbidden Solitaire.
Solitaire.
Even better. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.